welcome back to another episode of the Raw Knowledge Podcast with your host, as ever, myself, Alex Connor. And you know by now, we keep it real, we keep it raw, and we get some insightful conversations with some brilliant minds. And I'm joined with another one this morning, Mr. Brad Davis. Thank you for joining me. And how are you in the Sunshine Coast?
Pleasure for joining you, sir. Thank you for having me. And mate, living the dream up here on the sunny coast. Absolutely love it up here.
Mate, it is beautiful. We were just talking before we officially turn the mics on, so to speak. That is a bit of a nostalgic place for me. And yeah, what a way to start the day. And we were talking about, you want to talk about some morning routines. I mean, what a ripper, watching the sun rise, having a coffee. Mate, it's the simple pleasures.
Mate, it is. And a lot of people get their energy from coffee. A lot of people get their energy from training in the morning. But mate, sometimes if I don't feel like training early, I'll go watch the sunrise. And mate, it just juices me for the day. Absolutely.
It's definitely a way to fill the soul up and fill the cup up. For 100%. People who might not be aware, Brad, tell us who you are, what you do, but more importantly, why you do it.
So who am I? My name's Brad Davis. I started as a personal trainer and evolved into a gym owner and then a business coach. I was based in WA. I've just moved over to the sunny coast. So just business coaching over here, mate, and just loving the journey. Working vast majority with Trainer HQ, mates, and yeah, just absolutely love it. Trainer HQ is just a business coaching platform for the guys that don't know it. And I personally help about 35 fitness professionals around Australia, everyone from a personal trainer, brand new in the industry, right through to gym owner or multiple gym owner, or building a team. So anyone in the fitness industry, whatever level and whatever status, that's the type of people that we work with, mate. So loving that side of it. And why I do what I do, well, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm massive on, you get one crack at life, you get one shot at life, and making sure that you do something that you enjoy, right? Because I don't want to hit 50, 60, 70 years of age and look back and say, man, I should have done this, I should have done that. So something that I hold very close to my heart and true to my values is always doing something that I truly enjoy. And mate, so that's why I do what I do. I love helping people, and mate, I really, truly enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, right? Success leaves clues, and one of the main elements to that, or one of the ingredients, is actually doing something that you love, that gives you purpose, and that you're actually passionate about. Because although there's never utopia, ultimately you want to get up and fill your days with something that you enjoy. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that later. You mentioned Trainer HQ, two of the legends, Brad and Jason, who have featured on the podcast. So this will be a nice addition, my friend. So an absolute pleasure. I want to go back to the beginning of your journey, or towards the start. And I want to ask a question that I generally pose, which is, was there any events, was there any conversations, any people initially that inspired you to get onto the initial PT journey? I imagine you started off as a PT. I could be wrong, but yeah, were there any sort of key chapters in the early stages which were really important or critical to leading you on this path of which you're on now, which is ultimately helping people?
Yeah, the thing that pops into my head immediately is I started as a tradie. So I had a ceiling fixing business for about 10 years. Mate, the money was good. I was working with a good group of guys, but it just didn't really fuel my fire. I didn't wake up every morning and just go, hell yeah, I can't wait to lift heavy shit for 10 hours. It didn't do it for me. So I always had a massive passion in anything to do with fitness, played sport as a young kid growing up in the country, always watching sport, and just genuinely love helping people as well. So put the two together, and I feel the fitness industry was the place for me. So, mate, after making that decision of I didn't want to pursue a career any further in the trade industry, mate, that was the defining moment, just making that decision and just saying, do you know what, I'm going to chase something that I want to do for the rest of my life. Started as a PT, you are correct, started as a PT down the southwest corner of WA in a little country town called Busselton, in a Jets gym, a little small Jets gym there. Mate, and got started there, and yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of the defining moment, just making that decision, talking to people, and the people close to me, so my parents, my family, my close friends, and just explaining what I was experiencing at that time. And then they basically just said, do it, make a change, do it. So there was quite a few people that helped me make that decision. But I think ultimately just me talking to the people close to me, that was the deciding factor.
Yeah, and I think this will be good to dive into a little bit more, where there's a lot of people out there that'll be listening, and it's good to empathize. It's good to understand what people go through emotion wise. So could you talk us through some of like what was going through your head initially when you were starting out all the way back then in this Jets gym, maybe some of the self-talk that was going on, some of the doubts, some of the initial challenges that you faced, and then perhaps sort of talking us through how you rationalize those or even how you work through them. Because I think, you know, we forget we're all human. And even from time to time, a lot of trainers that first come in, they sort of, you know, wig themselves out. It's really easy to get a bit sort of down and complacent. But, you know, what were some of the anchors and challenges you faced? I think people, if they resonate with that, it can kind of give an insight to like, hey, we all go through some of these demons. We're all fighting it. And I think it'd be great to extrapolate some of that.
Yeah, cool. The emotions were, you know, I was leaving a good career and a good job for something that I had no idea how I was going to go. So there was a lot of uncertainty. I'm not going to say scared, because I wasn't scared. I was excited to get into an industry that I truly wanted to chase. And I backed myself, you know, I truly backed myself, and I knew I was going to make it happen in one way, shape or form. So, mate, I just had the confidence to go and do it. But there was you know, that level of uncertainty that you experience when you're doing something new, and there's that fear that you don't know how it's going to turn out. But mate, I've been very fortunate to have great parents and a great family. And I've got a really strong foundation that I grew up with. And mate, I've got these people that are cheering me on and pushing me to go further. And it's also brought me up in a very positive mindset. So mate, I'm looking at this situation in front of me at that time, and I'm thinking, I want to be in the fitness industry. I'm just good. Do you know what? I'm going to do it, and I'm going to think positive thoughts, and I'm going to enjoy the journey. And mate, I just trusted the process. So there was a moment I'd love to touch on as well. There was a moment that I was actually traveling in Canada with some friends at the time, and I think we booked, I think it was about a 2 or 3 week trip. Mate, I actually ended up coming home early, even though it was a bit of a dream trip. It was right at the end of my trade career. I took a few weeks off before I started in the gym, went to Canada with a few friends, and I just had this kind of anxious, you know, feeling that I shouldn't be doing this. I should get back and get started now. So there was a lot of, I guess, not the most positive emotions going through, you know, that I was experiencing at that time. And made one, but once I made the decision to come home early, even though it's not really recommended for holidays that you pay so much for, I came home early and I just got myself started because I felt like I just needed to get started. So there was a lot of new kind of emotions happening at that time. But once I got started, mate, I never looked back. Never looked back. I really feel that if you put yourself in the right position, the universe will just, you know, it's not going to take care of the rest. You're going to require effort to be able to, you know, move forward in your career in whatever industry that you're in. But I truly did trust the process and trust that everything would work out.
For sure. And I think there's a lot of merit in that in terms of, you know, you mentioned your family, you mentioned your friends, you know, having that foundation initially is definitely going to be something that's has a massive impact on you, because it's like your internal morale, you know, it's that self-talk, it's that positivity, it's the mood, it's the attitude, it's almost this body language, it's things you can't communicate. And observing people, you know, in any environment, not just the gym, but you can see when trainers come in sometimes who's initially got what I like to call the minerals and who doesn't. And obviously people can change, but there are certain people who are just a little bit more adept to, you know, positivity. They're open, they're approachable, they've got the right body language, versus people who are a bit more closed off, they're nervous, they're sort of in their shell and they almost sort of radiate negativity. I think it's important to be aware of that. And, you know, it's hard because some people don't have that foundation, but if you've got the mindset, I think you can create that. And then obviously working on those habits and behaviors. The first 12 months in the gym, in this particular Jets. Talk us through what that was like for you, and before, I guess, maybe you got help or mentorship. I'm not sure when that happened along the way, but how did that journey, that initial 12 months go for you? And then let's break down, and again, we can talk about this now with your daily habits and routines. I don't know if you were into that from day one. If so, talk us through what your routines were and how you've refined them, and things that are the most valuable to build a successful business and hit the ground running for the PT that's, coming in and starting out. Because I think that is absolutely gold stuff for a lot of people, because they're overthinking it, and they're just not doing what's required to build a business. I think they are under the illusion that it's just about training, where ultimately this is a business and you need business acumen. So I'd love to talk through that, please, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. And well put as well, brother. The first 12 months of my journey, mate, I didn't have a set morning routine. I was very uneducated in life, even though I had a strong foundation. I was very uneducated in business, even though I had a sealing business for about 10 years before that as well. Business in the fitness industry is totally different. You don't get given jobs from builders. You actually have to go out and generate your own leads, etc. So two totally different things. And, I had, as I was saying, I had no morning routine in place, something I hold very close to my heart now. And I lasted about 5-6 months in the Jets in Busselton. And then I actually made the decision to move from Busselton 2 hours north into Mandurah. All my family was in Mandurah. So I only started building a pretty solid foundation of clients in Jets in Busselton, but within 6 months made the decision to move up. And I had a really great kind of, there was another female PT working at Jets. We bounced off each other really well. I learned a lot off her because she was a PT with years more experience than I had at the time. So that I was really fortunate to have her to kind of as a mentor, and okay, this is how you run a business, and learn certain things off her. And the two managers were great there as well. So that was the first 6 months. No systems, no routines, no nothing. I was very uneducated in the fitness industry, very uneducated at business in the fitness industry. And then 6 months went past. I chose to move up to Mandurah. Now, Mandurah was a very interesting time. My family was there. That's all the people that I knew there. I didn't have any friends, didn't have a solid social life. I didn't play any sports up there. I was brand new to the area. And my first kind of week, I just kind of got used to certain things. I didn't know if I was staying. I didn't know if I was going. And then, within the second week, I started to go into gyms, and I just thought, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to go, check out a few gyms, see how it feels. I remember going into about 3 or 4 gyms one day, had a chat to a few of the managers, and I entered this gym. It was called Body Appeal, still is. And I entered the gym, and I thought, this is the place for me. There's about 5 or 6 personal trainers there, about 800 members. The gym was about, I'm not sure, 800 to 1,000 square meters. So not huge, but a pretty good size. Not huge compared to the ones these days that I see. But it was, it was a really good gym to start in. So to finish off my first 12 months, I got started in that gym, built myself a reasonably solid foundation of clients, able to cover rent, and started, putting a little bit of money back into savings as well. But still, in the first 12 months, still had no morning routine, still very uneducated about business and about, fitness in general. That would sum up my first 12 months. Yeah.
So when you sort of evolved from that, when was the I guess the initial understanding of creating these routines? Where did that come from? Was there any people on social media that inspired you? Was it from this other PT that was back at the first gym, or were there other people in this new environment that sort of inspired you? Where did you start to kind of build some structure, some systems, and some processes that kind of got you moving or changing gears, if you will, to building an even more profitable business?
Yeah, absolutely. Towards the end of my second year. So I was now in the fitness industry for 2 years. I had a really solid base of clients, but, at the end of my 2 years, I was doing about 60 sessions a week and had very little time for anything else. Still hadn't built up many friends. I had a little bit of a social life, but not much. I was destroyed after my week's worth of PT sessions. pulling in good money. But this is the classic. I had no systems in place. I was doing way too much work myself. I was stuck in the business and not able to work on the business. So it was at that point that I made the decision, and I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to this, and I've been fortunate to talk to fit colleges and AIPTs students about this as well, so I can kind of, highlight my mistakes so that hopefully other people don't walk the same track, because it's so important for people to know. At the end of my 2 years, I was in a position where I was all of a sudden, I was in my dream industry, but I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It was very hard to complete what I needed to complete every week. And that was just in the business. There was no business growth there. So it was a very long road, and I just couldn't see myself getting out of it. So luckily, fortunately, came across Trainer HQ. They were known as Create PT Wealth at the time. And I had a brilliant coach that got given to me first. Her name is Lauren. I've still got a really good relationship with Lauren. And yeah, she was the one that started guiding me on, okay, mate, you cannot keep doing this. This is not sustainable or maintainable. We need to put some systems in your business. Also, you need to start enjoying yourself again. So what do you need to give yourself to allow yourself to start enjoying this process again? Because business, it can be a very lonely journey. So it's up to us to really put those systems in place and make sure that we've got things in our calendar and in our week that we look forward to, that we enjoy. So that would start summing up to the kind of the pivotal moment of me getting a coach and starting to implement the systems that really changed my whole business and life.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really valuable having almost that mentor or that big brother experience. And I think in hindsight, it's something that I always go back and think, man, if I could do something differently, that would be one of them. And I encourage a lot of people, without being biased as a coach, to, if you want to excel in a certain area of life, then, the 80-20 rule persists. 20% of the knowledge generally gets 80% of the results, but it's getting that actual knowledge. It's the concentrated knowledge. So it's seeking out the professionals and the people who are legitimate, or the knowledge via books or resources or whatever that may be. When you were doing the 60-hour weeks, you mentioned burnout. Like you said, it's really typical. You mentioned some really key things there. One of them I'm just going to pull back up, which is working on the business, not just in it. I think a lot of people, even trainers who've been in the industry for a long period of time, they're just sort of status quo. They're still working those hours. The business is not really growing. And the elephant in the room with personal training is that if you don't work your one-on-one, you don't get paid. So yes, you can get ahead and save, but ultimately what happens when you want to walk away, or you want to take a holiday for an extended period of time? Are you going to continue to generate wealth? And obviously now everyone's going online, and there's this and this, but ultimately there needs to be more than that. And I want to kind of maybe go down that avenue now and continue that journey with Lauren, and perhaps what happened there and how she really set up these systems and processes. Also as well, when you were starting out, what were you charging out of interest versus, and how we go along the journey, how you started to increase that? Because obviously this is something that I'm working with Brad, and a lot of trainers are not sure how to put their prices up. They're scared. I think this is one of the reasons why they're sort of still doing these big hours, because, trying to service everybody. And unfortunately, you just can't do that at the end of the day.
Yeah, so the first portion of that is how did Lauren and I kind of implement these systems so that I can get back to enjoying this amazing industry that we're in, and get myself back to a place where I was happy to be in it, and I was happy to grow a business, and I was happy to continue down that path. So, Lauren was a fantastic coach, and she never gave me anything or made me do anything. It was always put back on me. So she asked the right questions, which is what a good coach does, because it gets our brains ticking, and we're the ones that come up with the answers. So in terms of something that I always felt passionate about was morning routine. I've always been a morning person. I love the feeling of getting up and being productive and proactive before everybody else. I always loved sunrises, sunsets, love the ocean. So I just had to go back to the drawing board and highlight the things that I loved and that made me feel good. So when I did this, I made the decision to, and Jace, I work with Jason Ivanowicz as well, and he definitely enabled this system as well. He calls it the Me First principle, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's working on me first before I service anybody else, making sure that my batteries are fully charged, my cup is full, so that I can pour into others. For me, it's different for people, but for me, that was a morning routine. So, I mean, I'll run you through my morning routine now. It wasn't always this way. I don't touch my clients or anything in those sessions until 9 a.m. I'm up at 5. I'll go and train myself, get a coffee, watch the sunrise. I'm very fortunate to have a cold magnesium pool and spa here and a sauna. So mate, my morning routine now is like a couple of hours just to myself, where I can make sure that I'm creating the best version of me for today, so that I can enter any stressful situations, potentially stressful situations. I can enter any coaching sessions. I can enter any opportunities in the best mindset possible, so that I can get the most out of the day and ultimately life. So I didn't always have a morning routine like that. Obviously, living on the sunny coast, I'm very fortunate to be able to do so. But back to around about the time when I started this, it was just a very simple coffee and walk in the morning. Coffee and walk, meditation. Lauren, meditation was introduced to me very early. Lauren's big on that. So that's how that started. So just, you're right, having coaches and just being able to talk to these people, and a good coach will ask the right questions and extract the right information out of us. So that was at the moment where it all started changing. So I guess that was the long-winded first part of the question. The second question that you asked, Alex, which is so vital and important for personal trainers this day, is kind of how you go from, the classic $50 for a half-hour session. How do you start increasing your prices, and what's the best way to do so? I mean, Brad Shepard is king at this, right? He's absolutely king. The guy charged $440 for a PT session, right? So, and consistently did so. So at the end of the day, my process was a little bit different, and there's multiple ways to do this, but what I needed to do, and what I get a lot of my Trainer HQ clients to do now, is just add value, value stack. How can you stand out from every other PT in your gym? How can you offer something different? How can you include something new and exciting and, that next level in your package that stands out from every other personal trainer, and they can take that $50 half-hour session into maybe a $75 per week pack? It's still a half-hour session, but there's more value added into that pack. So that's the way I went about increasing my prices. And I guess that's probably the foundation layer of how we start doing it with my Trainer HQ clients now.
Yeah, 100%. And there's some great little keys in there I want to once again sort of touch base on. I think the morning routines, it's just to digress a little bit. A while ago, I think it was a YouTube channel, or it was something that I read, and what it did is it sort of bullet pointed the 10 habits of most of these successful people, right? And something else important here that me and you really sort of strike a chord on, Brad, is you also don't define success by monetary value. And I'm really big on this, because when people think of success, they think, oh, he's got loads of money, she's got loads of money. I know people with loads of money, they're fucking miserable. It's not the right. It's true though, right? It is. Yeah. It's like, money is great, but yeah, people say it can buy happiness. Well, it can buy so much, but it really doesn't, because ultimately you need that purpose, the fulfillment. And then again, what is, wealth without health, which is a nice little way of putting it. But anyway, I was looking at this. That's really critical, because success, I think, is people say it in different ways, but it's doing what you want, when you want, how you want. That's how I quickly summarize it. It's freedom. It's having choice. You're not sort of restricted, and obviously money is a part of that equation, but there are other more important ingredients. But back to what I was saying with the reading these bullet points, right? And they were nice, concise, and it was like, hey, Tim Ferriss or whatever it was, and all these names, what do they do? And it was all their routines throughout the day. And I started looking at this, and I started going, hang on a minute, there's a bit of a trend here. Now, there's some things that everyone does differently, but the trend was that they all had these routines. They all had certain things that they did in the morning and the evening. And one of them was gratitude. Another one seemed to be cold therapy in some way, shape, or form. Another one was meditation. And again, that can be, multiple things. It doesn't have to be sitting like the traditional, what people think, the stereotype.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's having that time for yourself. It's serving yourself before others. And I think, again, like that success there leaves clues where, it's ultimately a lot of people that I am fortunate to speak to now. We're all kind of doing the same thing. We might have our own little nuances, but it starts off the same. It's doing something you love. It's being in an environment like the beach or having the cold therapy. And it's not almost just the thing, it's what it elicits from you. And then eventually, obviously, you keep working on this and you have the luxury to push that back and have a few more hours in the morning. And I think that's important to underscore. Like you said, Brad, it wasn't always, I could start at 9. You got to earn that. But then that might mean, okay, well, in the early days, maybe my routines have got to be a little bit shorter, because I know there'll be people going, well, it's all right for you guys. Like, well, no, get up a little bit earlier, prepare yourself the night before, even if it's just a coffee or something that you play an instrument, reading a passage from a book, whatever it is for you before you kind of dive into that, which is really, really key.
I wanted to, sorry, Alex, there's something I'd love to share here. The reason why I shared my morning routine now, and I understand that a lot of people wouldn't have the luxury to have the time to be able to do that, or the facilities to do that, right? But what I did is I learned the value of having something put in your morning and focusing on me first and filling my cup before I can fill into other people's. I realized the benefits and how important that was for me. So the reason why I highlighted what I do now compared to where I started is I realized the importance. For me, I knew that was a massive portion of my happiness, a massive portion of controlling my stress, my mental health, a massive portion of building my business, entering the day in the most successful mindset possible, and just enjoying the journey, right? So I guess I probably didn't explain that well enough. I just wanted to lay the foundation of, I do this now because I know it's important, but when I started, you're right, I started with a 10-minute meditation and a morning walk. And it wasn't even every morning. It was kind of like I was only able, as a PT, that's kind of peak time. So I was only able to do that maybe twice a week. And at the time, that was enough.
Yeah. But like you said, it's it doesn't matter how it starts off. It's just getting started and building that out over time,
Yep.
But yeah, there's definitely something about that, which is really key. And I don't think people see the value, like you said, until they actually do it and then sort of build it out. It's almost like it gets the cobwebs off, if I could use that description. Like when I get up, there's a lot, like it's, you've just come up, there's a lot going on. There's nothing worse than just getting up and it's like, bang, 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 you're straight into it. It's like, oh, it's horrible. It's like, get the minutiae out, just like sit, silence. And there is something quite tranquil about the mornings and the evenings. There's a certain energy about, like, I'm like you, I was at the coffee shop this morning. I just like to sit there, the sun, just do what I want to do. I'm not checking my phone straight away. I do the cold shower first. People know all that sort of stuff. And then when I do it, I might have a look, get back to a few messages, but it's like, it's my time and it's great. And there's no rush. There's nothing worse than feeling rushed. And you go, right, cool. I know what's happening during the day. Do I need to do anything? Do I need to, what do I want to, okay, cool. And then we can get in, but it's like, you're charged, you're ready. You've not just sort of got up and it's smack bang, boof, hang on, you straight in. And, you're almost like out of breath. It's not good.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to work with a lot of mums when I was a personal trainer, and a lot of females, busy females as well. And what I found that, I could really relate to not all their lifestyles and what they had going on, but there was a massive similarity when it came to how they start the day. And I used to give 2 examples, and the example number 1 was, like you're saying, you wake up 5 minutes late, you might be a mother, you've got kids running around, you need to go tidy the lounge room, then you need to go make their food and then get them dressed and then ship them off to school, and you need to sort yourself out. Then, that's a busy morning. So what we found was implementing a morning routine into my clients as well. And this goes back to the value add. But what I was saying, how I was different to every other personal trainer, right? I was big on just lifestyle and how can we improve your lifestyle with other things other than just training as well. Now that was the first point, or the second scenario would be, get up half hour earlier and have a coffee, or do what you were saying just before, Alex. Go get a coffee from the coffee shop, sit in the sun and just be there. Just leave your phone at home for 5 minutes and just be there. So there's two scenarios. One scenario will allow you to go into work and be highly strung. And, you know, if a little bit of stress pops up, we might build that up in our head to be bigger than what it needs to be. The language we start using might creep into that negativity or highly strung language. It doesn't really suit a lot of our true, you know, morals and purposes in life and who we are as people. So that was one thing that I used to enjoy highlighting, you know, the difference of scenario one and scenario two. You know, for me, scenario two was so important. A lot of people will thrive with this as well. Scenario two was so important with me, where I was getting up and having that me time, as we've been talking about, because I was a leader. We've got 9 personal trainers in BDPT at the moment, my fitness facility back in Perth. If I was entering the gym in a highly strung, running late, negative language, highly strung body language, all the rest of it, that's going to enter my team's mindsets. That's going to have an impact on more than just me. It's going to impact my team. It's going to impact their clients. It's going to impact the whole facility, right? And same as a mother. If a mother's highly strung and if they're running late, and, you know, this is going to impact everything and everybody that they're around as well. So that scenario too of waking up and being the most successful person, successful, you're right, not based on money, successful person is in just enjoying the day and being cool, calm, collective through the day, and, you know, having the creativity to create opportunities and seeing opportunities as they arrive. Then, you know, if I had the choice between the two, it would be number 2 as well. So, you know, it's important to know that it just doesn't affect you. It affects, you know, quite a significant other amount of facets in your life as well.
Yeah, it's certainly a domino effect. And I think kind of onto that is the sleep element. We won't get too far into this, but, you know, it's this, okay, well, I went to bed late, I didn't get a good sleep, I got up late, and there's this vicious cycle. And if you keep doing that, it becomes a habit, and that's really hard. Females, probably biggest culprits for this, in terms of they're actually so loving and giving, you know, the feminine energy. They always want to help other people and they mean well, but this is why they're always exhausted. And I know exactly what you mean, working with a lot of females, a lot of mums, a lot of single moms sometimes as well. And they've just got so much going on, and they think the answer is to just keep giving, where it's like, actually, you got to give back to yourself. And, you know, I'm sure you know all too well, this can be a conversation that needs to be had many times. But once they can understand and grasp that concept and implement it, they see the value, and they can look after their kids better. They can, you know, look after other people in their life, or even their job. All of these stresses, like you said, everything's just alleviated a little bit. You're just in a more prime position. And as you said, coming in, you know, with 9 trainers, if you're coming in with that energy, people read that, they can feel that you want to lead by example. I mean, sure, we all have our days, of course, but yeah, you've got to sort of lead from the front. Absolutely. And yeah, you got to be on the front foot, especially when you're doing that. I want to talk how you kind of got to that now, Brad. Obviously, you know, you're in a place where you get to mentor others. You've still got, you know, your personal trainers underneath you. That's the way you've scaled your business. Was that something that, if I remember correctly, Lauren was your first mentor? Did she help you do that? Was that something you always wanted to do? Maybe let's continue on that pathway now and how that sort of evolved.
Yeah, it's a funny one, this one. I remember talking to Brad Shepherd when he was trying to sign me up to, well, not trying to sign me up, but having the discussion about joining Create PT Wealth. Yeah. And he said, mate, maybe what it sounds like you need here is, you know, what if we built a team and they were able to do the sessions for you? You can steer the ship and they can pull the ropes, so to speak. And I was like, nah, not interested. I've had a team in ceiling fixing. They were a nightmare. I'm not going down that path. You know, and I was so closed about it at the time. And it's quite funny because it's actually turned out to be a dream come true if I look through the journey now. But I was closed about it at the start. Lauren and I, she's brilliant. She never pushed me. She just continued asking the right questions and continued creating these scenarios and painting a very clear picture in front. And she said, look, if we get the systems in place, you can actually do it in a way where it's a very measured out process, and we can make sure we get the right people in, the right systems that they follow. It can be very streamlined. And one day I just went, you know what? Okay, let's do it. So at Body Appeal, where I first started, I built up to a team of 4 personal trainers, able to step back from personal training myself and be more of this is where we can start talking about working on the business. Because I gave myself that time and space to be able to work on the business and start growing the business rather than being stuck working in it. So there's two big differences there.
Mhm.
Fast forward, ran out of space, so to speak, at the facility. I definitely didn't. I could have kept growing, but in my mind at that time, I was like, nah, need to go bigger. Got another facility, an Anytime Fitness in Mandurah. I built a team of 3 personal trainers there. So, and there's a lot that goes inside that. I'm giving you the snapshot version.
Yeah, no, for sure.
2 facilities, 7 personal trainers. Was fortunate enough to get my own facility. I brought the trainers into that facility. So mates and we've been in there for over 3 years now. I've employed a manager, and then she turned into a co-director. So she is actually an owner of BDPT at the moment, which once again has allowed me to step back from that business and start working on it instead of in it. Excuse me, but also give me the clarity, the time, the space, the energy to be able to be a business coach and give my business coaching clients what I need now. So that I guess was the transitional step-by-step process.
Yeah, for sure. And that's good to give a bit of a snapshot. Like you said, there's so many intricacies in it, and so many ways to do that. But
that's over about 2 to 3 year period. So there's quite some time there.
Yeah. Because that's something where you look at, and I've talked about, working with Brad as well at the moment, you can grow laterally and grow vertically. And that was one of the things that I'm like, I don't really want to do that either. But there's obviously like even hybrid models within that as well. And sometimes you're going to be open to these, ways of doing things, especially when you've got the systems and processes that are passed down from, people who've got the knowledge to do it. I guess, what were some of those, key elements or tools that you had to implement to actually find the right trainers? And then how did you manage that from a payment perspective? For example, are you advertising now for a trainer underneath you? Are you then obviously charging them out at X rate and then taking a percentage? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, what systems and processes allowed you to grow that? And then also with the lead generation, was that something that became organic because of your name and reputation, or was there other marketing tools you were using? Was it email marketing? Was it word of mouth? Was it paid, etc.? I'd love to and again, just pick a few. You don't have to go into everything because I know there's a lot, but maybe just the most critical factors which were responsible for the success of you being able to work on the business, not in the business.
Yes, there's so many good points that you raised there, brother. So many good points. I mean, again, multiple ways to do this. The way that I did it was I advertised for a trainer. The trainer came under me at a cheaper pricing point because I wanted to make them more attractive, financially attractive to basically get that personal trainer clients. We can start earning money. They can clear rent, etc. Again, there's different ways to do this, but I did a percentage split. There's also ways where you can just pay them X amount per session, half hour, 45, 60, and then the company or the business would take, the excess left over as well. Mm-hmm. So there's multiple ways you can do the financial structure, which definitely needs a coach to touch on more depth. So that's how we did it. And it's a very duplicatable business, a duplicatable system. I call it cheeseburger systems because there's one recipe for a Macca's cheeseburger, right? But it's made in God knows how many Macca's in the world. So it's very duplicatable. So there was one process, one system for the first trainer. It was the same for every single trainer. You asked a question that highlighted kind of what was the key thing that kind of, that moved you through that process. Do you know what it was? It was making mistakes, bro. It was making mistakes because I definitely didn't get it right the first time. I look at trainers that I hired and they were totally wrong for my business. I look at mistakes that I made as a leader. So I made plenty of mistakes through that time. Don't think that I nailed this process whatsoever, but what I did with those mistakes is I learned from every single one of them. I created a system to overcome it, to polish it out, smooth it over so that next time, if it arose, I knew exactly what to do about it. So by all means, I did not nail this process. I just kept at it. And I just thoroughly enjoyed the whole time. I really enjoyed the whole time. And there were some really, there were some really substantial moments where, when I was moving from gym to gym into my facility, you can imagine they're not going to be stoked with that. You're taking trainers and a lot of rent per week away from their businesses. excuse me, brother, a lot of rent away from their businesses, they weren't happy. They weren't stoked with me, you know. So there was a moments like that where I really had to be strong and you know, really be confident that I can do this, but at the same time be as respectful as humanly possible, and not burn any bridges, but making sure that I'm moving forward, and you know, that I'm getting what I want and what I deserve out of this industry. So that's probably a snapshot of kind of how I did it, and just to touch on the mistakes that I made and how I dealt with them, and also that it definitely wasn't all rainbows and daisy fields, that's for sure.
No, I appreciate your honesty, and it's good for people to understand that. You know, I think people forget that, you know, we are all human, and mistakes are just a way to learn. And unfortunately, although you can avoid, you know, you want to avoid certain mistakes by, again, listening and learning, and doing your due diligence, you're going to make mistakes, and that's how you learn. They're the critical pieces of information that now you can pass forward, and then people will make other mistakes, and you go, okay, we'll problem solve it. I guess one of the biggest sticking points for a lot of trainers is lead generation, right? They're not sure what to do at the basic level. And I want to talk about organic lead generation. So I'm fortunate enough to have a couple of coaches. I don't necessarily employ people, but I work in alignment to them. And I would one day love to be a coach myself, a coach of coaches, if you will. So I'm working with people now, and, you know, I've been able to get these guys to a point where they're doing very well by just doing the basics. And people are always dumbfounded, like the other trainers, like, well, what are they doing? I'm like, well, I've openly told you what they're doing. It's not hard, but you don't seem to want to do it because it's so simple. And it's almost like weight training. A lot of the concepts are very simple, but it's missing the discipline, the consistency, or how they're approaching the actual, you know, tool itself. For example, a lot of trainers who come in, they don't want to spend their time initially in their business where they're on the gym floor, or they're even just there around the gym, or they're just going around and chatting to people and helping people. They think that the gym's just going to give them all these leads. So this is why I want to delve into this, because it's a question I get asked a lot. And I'd love for you to go through what you did in the early days, or even when you had the trainers, apart from the word of mouth, to continue to generate leads, or what other trainers can do if they're coming in and they want to organically generate leads in their facility without necessarily, you know, spending money on ads and all this sort of stuff. What are some of the basic things that a trainer can do the best, apart from obviously getting results for their initial clients, to actually continue to generate leads organically, in your experience, Brad?
Yeah, 100%. Something that I would love to touch on here is, we should never rely on a gym and them signing up members for us to have the potential to talk to these members. We should never rely on that. If you're fortunate to have that as a source of lead gen in your business, awesome, lucky you, because I guarantee you not everyone gets that. So to answer your question, what are some of the simple things that you can do to generate leads? I mean, walking the gym floor, it just gets looked over in this day and age. And something you touched on, Alex, is you can tell people what to do and they might look at it and go, oh, I'm not doing that. They might have a fear of rejection or whatever it may be. So, you know, and Instagram has a bit to play here. You see the guys with the Ferrari standing next to it being online coaches and all the rest of it. I don't know their stories. I've got no idea about them, but I do know that,
exactly what you're talking about.
social media can be such a highlight reel, and people think, oh, I'm just going to become a personal trainer and I'm just going to be able to stand next to my Ferrari and take a photo and put it on Instagram. You know, no, there's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of uncomfortable moments, man. There's a lot of uncomfortable moments, and you need to go out there. You need to get rejected. You need to go out there. You need to make mistakes, you know, but it's about how you bounce back from those. And mate, So I think some simple things that you can do for lead gen right now. Something that I always enjoy doing with my clients is going in-house first. So with your current clients, what can you do? So it could be introducing a semi-private model. Do they have any friends or family members that want to train with them? They can have a slightly reduced price, but they can have that buddy and that accountability and that, you know, that the competitiveness inside sessions. Maybe referral systems, referral programs. Do you have an incentive for your current clients to go out and actually market for you? Are you going to give them a $50 reward? Are you going to give them 2 free sessions? is the one thing better than us telling everybody how fucking amazing we are. I hope we're allowed to swear on this podcast.
Oh,
How
mate,
fucking amazing.
you can do anything, mate. Raw, real. You go
How
for
fucking
it, brother.
amazing we are. Yeah. The one thing better than us telling everyone that we're fucking amazing is our clients telling people that we're fucking amazing. Right. So, you know, having an incentivized referral program that rewards your clients to go out and basically market for you. Other ways are, you know, we can team up with small businesses. Small businesses, I feel, share a very special connection, and a lot of them, if you script it properly, are more than happy to work together. You know, lead boxes, putting lead boxes in the gyms and offering things for people's names and numbers. And we haven't even got started on social media yet. You know, it's about being creative and doing what we need to do and doing something different, doing something outside the box. I had this, speaking of outside the box, I'd love to share something with you. I had this client that we were really struggling to generate leads, and everything we were trying, it just wasn't working in his location for his business. And we thought, okay, let's get really out of the box. And we came up with this idea. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Alex. It's called Lumpy Mail. Do you know what Lumpy Mail is?
Not in that context, but continue, and I might know it in different terminology.
It's basically a letterbox drop, right? So what we did is we had
you put like shit in it to make it look different, like a thumb.
Yeah. So we had an envelope, and I just want to touch on this example because it's so out of the box, and there should never be, you need to do this, you need to do that to get leads. Be creative, you know? So we had envelopes, and we wrote "Dear Neighbor" on the envelope. In pen writing, handwritten. So who's not going to open that, right? For starters, because we want to draw attraction. We want people to open it. So, and it was in his neighborhood, so they were his neighbors around his business. And we put a packet of Lifesavers in the mail, like a little packet of Lifesavers in the mail. And that's, I guess, where it gets the lumpy mail concept, right? Genius, I know. I didn't name it, by the way. And then we had a letter in the lumpy mail, and the letter, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was along the lines of, we hope you're having the best, most positive day. But if you're not, just remember that, you know, we can be your lifesaver today. And there was a little pack of Lifesavers in there, right? And you got to think, like, who would open that and just be like, you know, throw it in the bin and not care? Like, that's going to cause a bit of reaction. Like, oh my God, who is this person? At the bottom, we had Instagram, email, phone number. And we got quite a good hit rate from that. And it was just so different. It was so different to the normal paid ads on social media, so different to everything else we were doing. And it was fun to create. We really enjoyed it. And the positive feedback we had that all over social media, etc., was massive. So I think lead gen these days, you know, it can be Facebook ads. They definitely work if they're done correctly. But I've got to be honest with you, with my clients, you know, yeah, we post on social media before and afters, testimonials, etc. But there's so many other ways to generate leads that are quite enjoyable to do as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's a great example of something like, you know, from the simplicity of walking the gym floor and how you would approach that, the conversations, the incentives with your clients. Because again, it's, people always look at, you know, acquisition, but sometimes it's also like retention is really big, and actually asking your clients. Like, I was having a conversation with, you know, another PT yesterday. I'm like, oh, you know, like, have you asked your clients, like, ask your best clients, like, hey, do you know anyone like you that would benefit from my training? And then, like you said, if you add an incentive to it, or you look at outside the box, and it might be set a free session, it might be a reduced rate, it might be like the semi-privates, whatever it is, you start sort of, the juices start flowing, and you go, oh, okay, hang on a minute. And then next minute you've got that. And then you start doing other things, I guess, to the other extreme, which is a little bit out the box. But as you said, who in their right mind, and I'm sure there's the odd person, is going to open something like that and not at least smile, or at least curious? Yeah. The human conditions are, I at least want to see who this person is. And the thing is, that person, I think Jason talks about this a lot, where you sort of build that relationship and you build value. Like, you can't necessarily try and sell something straight away to someone, but if they click that follow button, or if they are now watching you, they're on your radar. or you're on their radar, vice versa, whatever it may be. And over time, that client might be a client in 6 months, in 3 months, they might refer 3 people. But all of a sudden, I find all of those, like, I call them like planting seeds in the early days. Like that stuff comes full circle, and it can be 3, 12. It's even been 2 years later for me as a trainer. The things I did 2 years ago when I started, those people had come back to me and said, this is why I've come to you now. So they were just constantly watching, and it was like, yep, this guy's legit. He's been here. He did this. He's always helped me. Bang. You're the, when the time is right, you're my PT. And it's like in times where sometimes you need clients, it's when those clients come to fruition, come out the woodwork, and you're like, oh shit. But if I'd not done that in the early days, or you don't make the effort, it's like building this momentum. And eventually, you know, it becomes a little bit more organic to a degree, but all of those sort of seeds start to flourish, and then they bear fruit, and then all of a sudden it becomes in abundance. And I guess this is where you need these systems and processes, because sometimes it's not the lack of business which kills personal trainers or any business, but it's the growth of business, and the business isn't able to facilitate and manage the clients, the customers, and create the experience. So therefore they end up losing out, and they start shortcutting their basic values and beliefs. And I think we see that a lot in a lot of companies, you know, that rapid growth, and they're just not able to deliver. But in terms of you getting to that point then, and now, you know, you're in this role where you're a leader, you're a coach, etc. What are some of the things you've now learned from teaching others? Because there's this maxim where we go, as we teach, we learn. And I know that's a big thing for me, even like with clients in the early days, when you're explaining something, you're almost like, oh, actually, I'm understanding this even more. And you're constantly sharpening this sword. So I guess, what are some of the biggest learnings you've actually taken from coaching other coaches versus maybe some of the biggest, I guess, lessons learned? Because like you said, we learn from mistakes.
Yeah, so much, like so much. Being in the fitness industry has taught me so much about life, taught me so much about myself, taught me so much about business. It's so hard to just nut it down to just a couple, but I will touch on, you know, things that or you know, things that I learned along the way to ensure that you are growing and moving forward. With some pretty big lessons learned for me was take action. It's like you were saying before, Alex, it doesn't matter how much you know, it doesn't matter how well educated you are. That's obviously going to be a factor. But if someone tells you what to do and oh, I've already done that, or I know how to do that, but you don't even action it, you know, you've just missed out on the most important part of that equation. I had one of the most highly qualified PTs working for BDPT when I was back in WA. He attempted to start a personal training business with my help and guidance. I would have had 4 people on the team by this stage. So the systems were working, and there was nothing wrong with the systems. And I thought, this guy is so well educated. Number one, why the hell does he want to work for me? Number two, this is going to be insane. He's just going to get booked out straight away. Even I was thinking this, because he was just so highly educated, studied 4 years at a London university, written articles in novels around the world. Like, this guy was it, right?
Legit,
yeah. And he basically, I think he thought the same himself. He thought that he was just going to get booked out. But the guy, and I love him, and we still got a great relationship today, but the guy did not action anything. He was so well educated. He knew everything to do everything in the fitness. It actually blew my mind, a couple of conversations I had with him, but he didn't action anything. He did not action anything. So, and you know, it goes to show that actioning, even if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter the first time, as long as you learn from your mistakes, but action, try something, you know? So that would be one of the biggest lessons learned, I feel. And looking back on my career, I think one of the things, I was never the best personal trainer. I was never the most educated. And, you know, it took me a while to learn the technique of a lot of movements where trainers can pick up that stuff quite early. But what I did, and my strength, was I actioned and I tried and I tested and I learned. So I think that was probably the biggest learning for me. And working with clients now through Trainer HQ, I think it's the same thing. I think if we get back on a call and we have set out a system or a method to go and do over the last 2 weeks or week or what have you, if that hasn't been actioned, I'll never move on to the next thing ever. we need it to be actioned and then worked or failed and then learn from it to move forward. But if that hasn't even been tried and tested in action, then we can't move forward. So that would probably be the biggest lesson learned for me through my career.
No, definitely. And a very valuable point, because like you said, it's even going back, I always say there's more, but if we had to categorize trainers, from my experience, is subjective, which leads on to what you were saying there about your friend, is we have people who are really highly educated, but they're not good at communicating or actioning, or actually they're not people's people. And then we have these other trainers who are like really good with people, high eyes, poodles, there's all these personality tests, however you want to call them. You got loads of energy and they're great and they get loads of clients, but fuck, they're just shit at training them. Like they're just not getting results, hurting people, but their energy, and I feel sorry, they usually look pretty good themselves. Their enthusiasm's great, but I'm like, you're just fucking people up, man. You're just not getting results with people, and at some point, you don't have to be the best expert in the world, but ultimately there should be something tangible over time. That is my belief.
Yeah.
But then when you get this combination of knowledge and communication and personality, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I always use a couple of people in my sphere, because some people go, oh, well, I'm not like you, Alex. And I go, well, not many people are going to have the energy I have, and that's fine. But don't try to be. I know some of the best trainers in the world, and they are super reserved. They're quiet, but they have their way of doing things, but they still have to come out their comfort zone a little bit to do enough to do what's required. But at the same time, they play to their strengths. And I just kind of want to put that out there, because I know there's people out there going, oh, well, I'm not, this bunny rabbit. It's like, well, you don't have to be. But there is a certain amount of, discomfort you have to go through within that journey. So I think that's really critical, as you said, that there isn't necessarily that one archetype, or just because you don't have the best background or the most education that you're not going to be successful. Again, it's about doing something, and that is better than nothing. Action creates momentum. Rather than, and as you said rightly, it's no point in moving on if you've not actioned the basics. And I think you've got to trust the process, and we all go through that. Again, I'm going through it again with Brad. It's a lot of difficult and uncomfortable things, but you've got to be like, wow, I got to trust the process, right? Because people have been there and done it. You're going to learn, you're going to figure it out, you're going to find growth. If you've done what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So sometimes you got to trust the process. I want to ask Brad, and I know we're coming close to time, but if you could do anything differently, and you might not, but if you could go back and speak to yourself when you first started out, and you just had 1 minute, because again, there's so many things you could say, but if you just had 1 minute off the top of your head right now, as we speak, what are the main things you go back? You say, hey, Brad, this is me in the future, right? Killing it, by the way. All right. But you don't know that yet. So just to let you know. But just that, we might say that. But what were the things that you'd say, hey, look, just do this differently, or at least think about this a little bit more? What would you say to yourself?
I probably don't even need a minute. I probably would just, if I was able to talk to that person, that Brad at the start of the business, I would just say, mate, just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. That's all I need to say. I don't even need a minute. So that's all I would say. Just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. That's it. Plain and simple. But I will, one thing I did want to touch on before is, we were talking about success, and we were talking about getting to that pinnacle, and something that I wanted to touch on. And when I was working with the big fella, Jace, you're working with the other director, Big Brad Shep, on the other director of the THQ. I was very fortunate to work with Jace for a 12-month extensive coaching, time frame, and it was excellent for me. And he taught me something else very valuable that I wanted to touch on before. And success is great, right? And holidays, and buying clothes and expensive cars and money in the bank and all the rest of it. That's great and that's good. But to me, success is who you become through the process. If you become a much better version of yourself, where you're enjoying the process, trusting the journey, all the things that we've spoken about today, that to me is success. If you get all the money, the nicest car, able to take holidays where and when you would like, but you're an absolute dickhead and you're not enjoying the journey. Well, to me, that's so far away from its success that it's not even funny. So that was just something else that I wanted to point out. And Jace taught me that very valuable lesson of, success is great, but it's who you become through the process.
Absolutely. I'm going to add to that because I'm glad you brought it up. That's one of the reasons I actually chose to work with Brad and Jason, because, and no offense, but we live in this age now where, and you mentioned it before, the guy stood next to the supercar. Why? I'm sorry. I love fucking cars. I love bikes. I love all the nice things in life. I love me fashion, this, that, and the other, but there's a way of doing it. And I just don't think stood next to a supercar going, I nearly didn't post this, or this is what I've got now, but I still had, like, fuck off. Because look, I'll tell you something, right? If you've got a Lamborghini Aventador, you don't need to tell no one, because guess what? That thing does the fucking talking for you. And people who know will know because they're your friends. And for me, and I know, like yourself and Brad and Jason, I know they're fucking super successful. I know they are. But they've never made a post. There's never any, the only thing I've ever seen from Brad is, because I noticed with fashion, was a watch. And like, that is literally it. There's never any emphasis on it. It's always about the underlying lifestyle. And I said this to Jason the second time I met him, and I said, I love how humble you guys are, because I know I can put two and two together and there's little clues there. And I'm sure that those things are there, but there's never any emphasis on it. And it's not like that at the same time either they're trying to play the humble card and really play it down. They're not. But the focus is on the journey, who you become. Yes, it's about creating that wealth, that lifestyle, but it's more about the things you can't touch and feel. And I really love that, because a lot of people that I look up to that are successful, who, like me, do like the nice things, but it's like the emphasis isn't on that. People who talk about money all the time usually ain't that successful. People who talk about their cars or women, they usually don't have that much. It's the opposite. If it's in abundance, you're not worried about it. You're not talking. And I do love that, Brad, because I think it's important, because you can have the cake and eat it too. You can still have the nice things, but the emphasis is not like on that. It's like, I'll use another example because I think this is important. Like, people have dream boards. I like my dream boards now. They're for me, right? But if someone was to see it and they would go, oh, you've got a car on there, or there's a sunrise or a house. And I'm like, well, actually, it's not the car, the sunrise, the woman, the dog. It's actually what they represent to me. And they have a feeling and an emotion attached to them, and they signify something to me. But most people would just see it and go, that's a nice X, or this is an X. It's like, no. It's so much more than that. So I love how you talked about that, because true success is, like you said, who you become along the journey, but it's also what you give back and how you can impact people's lives, because ultimately that's the main goal. And all of that other stuff, that's just a byproduct of success. That's the carbon dioxide that comes with the oxygen, man,
Yeah. There's one more thing that I want to touch on there as well. Like, I posted a photo of my car yesterday because I got detailers around and they cleaned it, and I love my car, right?
Yeah, I commented on it. It's based.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it. But I'm so resonating with what you're saying, because I love my car, and there's a big backstory to how I got that car. And to me, every time I jump in it, man, I'm just super grateful. It's something that really has a quite an important backstory for me, and always will. But if you scroll through the feed, and my social media isn't perfect, and I'm just being real, raw, genuine on my social media. But if you scroll through, the content is about things that I really, really value. There's way more sunrises and sunsets than cars on my social media. There's way more client success stories and me working with clients than kind of anything else. And I think if you look at someone's social media and it's all about the cars and all about that stuff, I agree with what you're saying so much. Also couldn't agree more with what you're saying about Brad and Jason. Having these two guys as my mentor over the best part of 3-4 years has been a massive, massive learning curve for me. And I was never about the cars or the holidays at the start, but for me now, it's just being able to wake up for me and have 3 hours to myself every morning and do all that stuff. and then get into sessions and enjoy every single session that I have, and then get to the end of the day and not be tired whatsoever. I'm almost even more charged than when I was when I started the day. That to me is success. And I think, that's where people go so wrong through the journey, is they focus on all that stuff instead of just enjoying the day and enjoying the journey, man, for sure.
Well, exactly. And that's a great way to summarize. They're more interested in the outcome than the journey or the actual experience that they are giving. I mean, and like you said, it's not what you do, it's how you do it with posting and sharing. There's a way of that you can still get that across, where it's like, well, I am passionate about this and I do love my car and I resonate with that, because I was fortunate enough to race professionally. They mean a lot, like the representation to me, and it makes you smile, it makes you feel good. But like you said, it's the intention behind it is not, hey, look at me with my fucking car. It's like, hey, dude, congratulations, that's sick. But like, it's about more than that, and you're proud of it. And you can tell when someone's after fishing for compliments and validation versus whether this is a genuine post. And you know what? Fucking well done, because that's cool. Like you value that, you earn it along the way. So 100%, man. It's a big key thing with a lot that goes on these days with social media, because that really, I think, sets an expectation. Like certain people just think like, oh yeah, like I got to do that to get this. It's like, well, no, you don't. I mean, there's I often share, there's a guy called Dr. Jordan Shallow, had the fortune enough to have on my podcast. And he was saying they had a conversation with another guy, Kyle, where the Instagram followers and what you've got there doesn't equate or necessarily equal to your financial wealth. So, for example, a lot of the time, the people with hardly any Instagram followers can be earning. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And like you said, it's not about materialistic things.
Yeah. And the one thing I was just going to touch on there is, like I've seen. I think the thing to probably ask and understand is there a story behind it? As you were saying there's a story behind your cars. With me, with my particular car, there's a story behind it. So, if they're just posting these things and I think they're forgetting the real essence and source of, what success is and what it can be and how enjoyable the journey can be as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you focus on that and having purpose and doing something that gives you, value from an intrinsic perspective, like with your clients, there's nothing better than when they achieve certain milestones and successes, and the coaches, and I don't know about you, but it gives me goose pimples. And I always go, yeah, this is why I do what I do. This, because of this feeling, and giving that to others, which is, I think it's invaluable personally, because my belief is your health is your most important asset. It's health and relationships, because if you don't have those two things, then life is empty, because we are human creatures and that is what we are designed to do. And then everything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, totally in agreement with you, brother.
I wanted to wrap up with some rapid fire questions before my final question, which I ask all my guests. They're a bit more fun in nature. So whatever comes to mind, and I'm sure there's probably more we can chat about, maybe a part two's in the works. It'd be great to do one in person. But the first one, rapid fire, is if you could choose a superpower, what would it be and why?
Invisibility, because I think it'd be cool to turn invisible.
Mate, you can definitely sneak up on some good scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And the second one, then, especially with the current situation, if you could invite anyone, any three people to dinner, dead or alive, at this point in time, because you'll marinate and think about this, who would you invite around the table?
Oh man, Arnold Schwarzenegger, just because I've been looking up to him and listening to his stuff for a long time. I think, gee whiz, these are good questions. Jennifer Aniston, just because. And number three, look, if you could do it, I don't know. I have a good amount of time with B. Shep and Jason Yubanowicz, so probably one or both of those boys as well, just because we have such a good time. Yeah,
they're fucking belters,
three or
man.
four people. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so funny, those two, man. I swear they could do comedy. Like, man, like
Mate,
I just
it's
have the best time.
speaking about surrounding yourself with the right people and enjoying the journey, mate. They have been very important for my journey. I've loved every second with them.
Yeah, they're top blokes, man, and yeah, definitely good value for sure. Um,
100%.
if you could have a social media post that would go viral, it's completely free. It's going to come up on everyone's Instagram, Facebook, etc. And you could have a picture or a little passage. What would be the message that you'd want to get out to absolutely everyone if you had that one free ticket that it would just boom traction?
Yeah, good question. It would be along the lines of that you time or that morning routine. It might not even be a morning routine, just something for yourself. Just make sure you do what you want to do in this lifetime. You get one shot at life, do what you want to do and get to the age of 50, 60, 70 and think, fuck yeah, man, that was cool. I really enjoyed that. Have no regrets. That would be the message that I want to get out there.
Yeah, man, absolutely love it. That's a belter. And I think more people need to take that on board. Easier said than done, I know.
Yeah.
But very true. And my final question, Brad, is I ask everyone, can you identify a fear that you've had in your life or maybe that you've still currently got, what you've learned from that fear, overcoming it, or what you're learning from working through that fear?
Yeah, really good. Probably fear of looking silly and embarrassing myself has been a big part of it. And then, yeah, still absolutely, still currently working through that. There's still circumstances, where you don't want to look silly and you don't want to, look like a fool in front of people. But for me, I'm at a really good place with it now where, and the big fellas have had a big role to play in this as well, where it's just, mate, in their exact words, I can hear Jace, this is what happens when you coach with them long enough. And I'll give you the tip. Even long after the coaching, you can still hear their voices right behind you. and Jace would be saying, mate, who cares? Don't worry about it. Who cares? People make mistakes. It's all good. So that would be kind of the fear that popped up in my mind and the journey through it is I'm at a really good peaceful place and people make mistakes and people look silly sometimes. So that would be what came up for me.
For sure. And definitely a good mindset to have for people to leave. And I think a current theme throughout this conversation as well, Brad, and I really appreciate you sharing and making the time. Of course, there's always more, but leave them wanting more. And if people want to reach out and they do want to learn more and follow along, where are the best places to reach out to you, Brad, for people listening and watching at the moment?
Instagram is Brad Davis Business Coaching with a full stop in between each word. And Facebook is Brad Davis Business Coaching. And that would be the two best platforms to reach me on. And I'd love to answer any questions. I'd love to just have a chat with anybody out there. It's something that I truly feel passionate about. And one of the things I love in the fitness industry is that people are so approachable when people do reach out. So I really enjoy having those conversations.
100%, man. So there you go, folks. You've heard it from the man himself. I'll put those links as ever in the show notes below, whether you're watching, listening, wherever it is. And feel free to reach out to Brad. He's a top man and he'll get back to you with some good and valuable information as well. Brad, I really appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you. It's been an honor. I'm sure there will be much more. I'm sure our chapters will intertwine at some point as well. It's been great to be introduced to the Trainer HQ family and I look forward to more. So, mate, any final words before we sign off from you?
Mate, I think we've covered a lot of important stuff. The final words from me would be just to relax, enjoy it. Don't. At the start of my journey, I look back and I was such a stress head and highly strung with needing to perform at a very high standard. And the learnings through that now have just been relax, enjoy yourself, have fun with it, reach the age of 50 to 60 and look back and just truly be happy with what you've done and truly just get the most out of every situation as well.
Absolutely. Advice I'm going to take on board myself, advice all the listeners and watchers I would encourage to take on board. And guys, you know the drill. If you like the conversation, share it with someone who you think will find some value. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought, whatever medium you're on. If it's safe to do so, give us some feedback. Leave a rating, guys. It means a lot. It takes 1 minute. It's really easy. And we really appreciate it because it helps other people share this knowledge too. If you're on YouTube, I've got to say it, share, comment, subscribe, and you guys already know. Until the next episode, stay fearless.